Hello everyone and welcome back to Alpine Odyssey. This is Season 2 and what a better way to start another season of this series here with more parking lots. It is how we started Alpine Odyssey last time, and it is how we kind of plan to continue it here. Now, way long ago, we have kind of filled in some of the loose parking lot features over on this side, and the beginning of this episode is kind of just trying to fix the overall asphalt layout, try and get a little bit more square and uniform and fill in all the gaps as much as possible. As you know, kind of doing this stuff in Planet Coaster can be a little bit of a pain to do large swaths of pathing to make plazas, but you know, there's ways around it. This episode and season, by the way, I do want to talk about kind of plans and how this is going to go here in the near future. Really, I am happy to be back in Planet Coaster, and I hope you guys are excited for a lot more of this content here, but you know, Alpine Odyssey is going to be kind of, again, the only and final park that I do in the game. So once this is done, we might do some one-off kind of construction blueprint things, but really this is going to be it in terms of just park creation. It's such a, you know, a great game and really time consuming though. So to do a build like this where we have, you know, close to 300,000 parts in this build alone, it is not even halfway really done. It's gonna be probably a million part build once we are completed with this. So hopefully the game keeps kind of holding out and running fine for us, though you kind of never know how that's going to go in the long run. There's a lot of weird angles in this parking lot, unlike the other ones. The other ones are a little bit more uniform, large squares, and I think that keeps this one a little bit more dynamic. This is specifically for staff parking and also roads to the backstage. I want to try and finish up this whole left side of the park here first before we move on to any other themed areas or any other rides or anything like that. So that's kind of why we are starting back here. And staff, of course, will need a bit of parking. There is a fence going around all of Alpine Odyssey, and that kind of creates this secured area back here. And it's the standard parking spots because we have already measured these stuff out before. So luckily, we can use a lot of the blueprinted areas to kind of save some initial time here. Now, because of the pathing and just how the angles of the road kind of ended up being, you're going to notice that the left kind of parking, the diagonal parking spots don't really line up to the road all that well. And that becomes a little bit more noticeable once we get to building some of the structures along the right side. And for this whole episode, we're going to be working on this lower area. This backstage section is divided in two tiers. So there's kind of an upper tier and a lower tier. The upper tier is going to have some more of the proper backstage elements. You can see them white boxed up there, and we'll kind of edit them a little bit. The lower tier is going to be a little bit more parking than backstage elements, but I think that's fine. You want to have parking everywhere, but the areas closer to the park, in my opinion, should be used for storage, such as this building here. The backstage area, luckily, is a little bit more simplistic in nature, right? Because it's a lot more utilitarian. So we're adding some nice stone troughs here to hopefully hold some building supplies or miscellaneous things over time. I don't add anything in this episode to these. I'm just kind of trying to place these out. And the rough stone nature, you know, they don't need to be dyed. It can remain rough. No real detail really involved. We do add some upper kind of seams to them though, just to make it look like maybe a little bit more reinforced concrete. We are going to be using the backs of some windows here to give us a little bit more of a white kind of off-color concrete that is poured kind of just along here, just so people can kind of drive up onto these things a little bit easier. I might try and make some dirt piles or other raw materials, as I said, in these. Don't quite know, so your suggestions in the comments can always kind of push the series along, guys, and I'm really hoping that I get some great suggestions as we continue with the build. Again, this is as much, in my opinion, your guys' park as it is mine, because you guys have helped me kind of come up and given me such great feedback over the past year or so for this thing. And I can't believe it's been so long of a build process, though granted we did take what seemed to be a five-month break due to how busy I am at work. That doesn't really seem to be slowing down, but I do want to get back into this so that we can at least call this done, and then we can move on to other games. So we have some curbs going along here. I'm going to try and keep some of this uncurbed and a little bit more naturalistic. It is a more utilitarian section, this driveway kind of going to the back of our stroller kind of storage building, and these troughs. Going to use a lot more shrubs and sparse vegetation back here, simply because it's not really the area that's supposed to look the nicest, you know. It is just supposed to be back here and out of sight. The trees, you know, adding an additional layer of blockage from the park so that people don't necessarily see everything that's back here. I'm fine with them seeing bits and pieces, little bits on rooftops, other structures that might be behind a fence line, but definitely not a clear sight of what's back here. And here at the back of the stroller kind of stage, we are going to be building a garage door. So this is kind of where the employees might take the strollers to return it, rather than going out the park entrance and getting everyone's way. They'll actually come out the staff entrance and stroll them through this large kind of foldable, collapsible garage door, which is pretty cool looking. We're just using rails kind of offset to get that little bit of a plate look to it. And at this point, I thought the roof was fine with just the modern kind of grate there, but I decided to try and use these shovels as almost a little awning going over it. The slight curve to it. It's really thin and metallic looking. So even though they are shovels, I think this kind of turned out really cool. I might try and use them elsewhere. It's not really a piece that I used a lot yet really in Planet Coaster. In fact, there's so many pieces I've yet to even use in this game that I think it's interesting kind of even to just go back into a piece that we've never used before, but that's always been in the game, and see what you can do with it. We're gonna marquee off also the concrete in front of that, just so no one can really park there, or just so people know that this is kind of a more protected section, you know, because people do come in and out of that door. The wall kind of needs replaced, and then we'll bring the door frame a little bit on the inside. That way it kind of reads while you're inside the building and outside the building. Again, Alpine Odyssey does have a lot of interiors. I'm not going to do all the interiors of the actual backstage area. The big barn that we're going to be building back here for just raw storage isn't going to have an interior or anything like that. So, you know, that's fine. Backstage to me, as important as it is, and I do want to get it pretty close to right, I don't want it to take too much time. To me, adding this backstage flair, because there's not many gameplay elements, there are staff rooms that I'm going to try and put back here just to make it look like staff employees go through here. It's not going to be where most people look around. I'm more or less adding this simply to get the overall silhouette from above the park to look correct, because if you'd say, like, just go to Google Maps, look around some already established theme parks like Disney World, and you'll see along the edge just a lot of sheds, a lot of storage areas, things interacting with the park much more in this manner than sometimes even how big the park is. I would say it's pretty incredible to see what just goes on behind the scenes a lot of the time. And so that's why we're trying to capture at least a bit of the footprint this can cause. Road markings going to be important in this area as well. I'm going to go a little bit light at first, simply due to that you can spin a lot of part counts simply just by adding arrows, line marquees around, and of course, you know, with our part count approaching pretty high already, I'm at 15 to 20 FPS, and if it gets, you know, below 10, the series might end up having to kind of stop prematurely. So I'm keeping it a little bit more simplistic than say the parking garage was, but that's fine. We could do some custom lettering eventually for the entrance and exit ways, but I at least wanted to get the arrows down and the actual parking grid, just so you can see where everything's going to be laid out. Of course, using some of our cars for scale. Very important to have a bit of scale going through here. I would say some of this parking, though, a little bit too spacious, you know? It could be a little bit more tight, a little bit more utilitarian in some areas, but that's fine. This is Alpine Odyssey, guys. This is kind of par for the course at this point. Here, you can see I'm adding this line for the road on this side, kind of near the parking spots, just so you can see kind of how off canter these are from each other. It looks pretty weird. Eventually, I do get rid of the orange line near the parking spots itself, which is fine. I kind of wanted to marquee out the road and where the parking kind of ends, but that off kind of tangent just never really looked good. So after a while, I do get rid of it. I will keep the orange line along the curb though, because I think that's kind of important to keep spacing away from at least the curbside and the, you know, the vehicles from getting too close to, say, the buildings themselves. Now the road going through is pretty wide, so I'm pretty excited to maybe make some additional vehicles now that we are in the backstage area. I'm hoping to maybe make some forklifts to kind of put around back here. Some more utility trucks I think would be cool as well, because right now we only have one type and our box truck. Some flatbed trucks I think would be pretty nice addition as well. So we might do some streams again where we kind of work on vehicles, and you guys can definitely come check that out, as hopefully we do that, and those will be announced. And of course you guys can hit the little bell icon on the channel so you guys can know when I do go live, when I do stream, and hopefully you guys will enjoy those and suggest a wide range of things to be added to the park. Live streaming Alpine Odyssey was definitely one of my favorite things to do, just to get that instant feedback. We're gonna just simply fill a lot of these curbs with plant low-lying shrubs, not an overabundance of trees, because with parking lots you definitely want to be able to see around corners quite well. So that is something you want to keep in mind when you're doing these type of areas. But definitely a lot of greenery, sparse rocks, the occasional really tall tree around the border. We're gonna also copy the kind of sliding gate from the opposite side and install this over here on the kind of parking. You can see the gate is actually a bit bigger than probably what would actually be functional here, but that's fine. No one's really gonna question it too much. It could, in theory, split in the middle and open both directions to save room. The other side, though, simply the whole door shifts over to one way. So that is a little bit different to each side, and that's fine by me. Some asymmetry is always nice to have every now and then for sure. So this is a storage barn of some kind. I saw a few of these in my reference images when I was looking around some backstage areas just to see kind of what they have. Just a nice simple rectangular building with a rounded top roof. Whether that is a kind of a fabric canvas roof or maybe a tin roof, don't really know. I started out with using these kind of corrugated metal just to see if that would look okay, but to me it looked a little too shabby of a combination, this wood and corrugated metal. It just looked really poor. The texture was fine, and I was fine with the actual color of everything together. But when I copied this down, I'm just like, this looks like an airplane hangar a little bit. So what we do is we just simply use some art shapes, not only because they are bigger, but we can kind of color them to look a little bit more clean and solid of a shape. So it might look to me, it looks kind of like a inflatable kind of structure, right? So it has this skeletal archway going down its spine, and the rest of it has this whitish material kind of sealing off the building. And we'll just copy and paste it down the line the whole way, kind of have this border just to bump it out near the seams, and even worry about sealing off the front, right? Because to me, the wooden structure is just kind of the support of it. The whole roof itself, to me, is this combination of wood supports and this whitish material, whether you think it's canvas or what have you. That's kind of up to you and how you want to interpret the material. I just think it looks clean like this, and plus it kind of saves part count as well. So we'll just copy and paste that over to the other side. We'll also even install kind of a security fence right here at the entrance of the footpath. And this will look cool once we kind of get a little bit more staff sidewalks kind of going next episode when we're working on that upper plateau, because there's going to be some staff rooms back there. And we're also going to be working on a little bit of the edge of the park. As of right now, Alpine Odyssey, it doesn't really blend into the park. We just have kind of this rough fence going around. And since we've kind of filled in this parking lot, I figured now would be a good time to at least start with a little bit of the forest that would be surrounding the park itself. A lot of these theme parks have these type of things. I don't know if it's to kind of maybe block noise, maybe just to make it look a little bit more secluded, and just keep people away. You know, if they can't see it, they might not know what's over there. And just a combination of trees. Try and make it pretty dense and close to the fence. And then as we get away, we'll kind of make the tree line a little bit thinner, and then transition to the wall of green, is what I like to call it, of just low-lying shrubs that you'll find at the edge of forests. And that's generally my foresting technique, whether that's in Planet Coaster, City Skylines. It seems to be working out just fine. Throw in an odd rock or two as well, just for some additional texture. Paint the ground a bit, and you are pretty much good to go. We're going to add a little bit more detail, just so it looks like the roof is maybe more like a steel frame structure, kind of bolted to the side. It looks a little bit cooler. We'll even add a door to it as well. So this is pretty much it for the first episode speed build. Hopefully you guys are going to enjoy the new season. As always, definitely leave a comment down below and give me your feedback. If you're excited, hopefully you are. And go ahead, subscribe to Just the Channel for more creative goodness such as this. Hit that like button. You also probably want to hit the bell notification. I guess I have to start saying that now, considering the way YouTube's been with notifying subscribers that videos have been coming out. And welcome back to Alpine Odyssey, everyone. I'll be uploading this hopefully once a week. So with that, thanks so much for stopping by, and I'll see you all in the next video.